Hello and welcome. I'm Sanjay Chawla, Chief Product Officer at Salient Systems. I'm really excited to share with you guys some of the work that we've been doing here at Salient. We are going to be releasing CompleteView 7.0 pretty soon, and this has been over a year in the making. This version is a major turning point for the product, and in today's session, we're going to be focusing on some of the key concepts that are part of CompleteView version 7.0. We're going to do a follow-on webinar a little bit later in the year that has product demonstrations. But today, we want to share with you all of the exciting things that are part of this release. Now, a few things to orient ourselves before we jump in. If you need to access the audio-only portion, there is a telephone number. Also, this entire webinar is going to be recorded and published. And we'll have some information at the very end and also in an email afterwards about where you can access not just this webinar, but other resources regarding CompleteView version 7.0. Now, one of the things that we're doing is we actually have a raffle going on for a $100 gift card. And in order to have a chance to win, you're doing the first part, which is attending this webinar, but we're also going to have a very short survey at the end, just 4 or 5 questions. But be sure to stick around, take that survey, because we're going to choose winners from that set of survey responses, and we're going to notify people through email after the webinar. That's it for the housekeeping. Let's jump right in. So the way we're going to structure this today is start with a quick overview about all the exciting things we've been doing in CompleteView version 7.0. We're going to focus on a couple of specific areas: storage management, cameras, the upgrade process, and then Salient Cloud Services. Throughout this webinar, please feel free to put questions into chat. What I'll do is at the very end of this, I'll open it up for live Q&A, and we'll also handle any questions that have come in at the very end. So let's dig in. As I've said, CompleteView version 7.0 is something that's been over a year in the making, something that we're really excited about. And this release actually lays the foundation for enterprise scalability and cloud connectivity. We've made some major advancements in how we store data, video data specifically, the scalability and responsiveness of our platform, and in camera support. With CompleteView version 7.0, you can scale your deployment to tens of thousands of cameras off a single management server. You have a lot of flexibility in managing storage. You get to leverage broader camera support. And the best part is this becomes the version that's required to sign up for Salient Cloud Services. And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about that today. So let's start with storage management, because there's a lot that's happened here in version 7 to update how we store data. Now, before we get into what it is we've done, I'd love to share with you our motivations for making these changes. When we started really listening to our customers and to the marketplace about feature requests on storage, there are a few things that kept coming up over and over. First, it was clear that people wanted more flexibility, more reliability in their storage architecture. Specifically, people wanted to be able to allow recorders to share storage. And in a lot of industries, it was important to have a simultaneous stream that was going to both regular and backup, so that if anything happened, you were not out, potentially a whole day on storage, and you had that simultaneous backup right there for you. Another key trend that we saw is the desire for camera-based retention, and we wanted to deliver on that as well. Last but not least, we saw a lot of requests for better notifications, alerts, and monitoring. And the desire here was to let administrators know about retention issues before they occur, especially in a lot of industries that have regulatory or compliance needs around video retention. We also wanted to help administrators and integrators very quickly identify the source of any storage issues. So if something was going wrong, being able to understand whether a drive had failed, whether a camera was misbehaving, or if something else was the matter. And last but not least, in observing how it is the marketplace was often dealing with storage emergencies, we introduced this concept of overflow storage, and it's there to help handle unexpected emergencies. So these are some of the goals that we set out to solve when we redid storage management in CompleteView version 7. So let's talk about some of the new concepts that are going to be part of version 7. First and foremost, we're introducing a concept of storage pools. The idea is that each recorder is going to have a logical view of storage, and it's going to be a whole pool. There's going to be a pool dedicated to regular storage. There's going to be a pool dedicated to backup. There's going to be a pool dedicated to archive. Now you can add or remove drives to the pool, and these drives can be remote or shared, and they can even be shared between recorders. It's very easy, especially in larger enterprise deployments, to set up some type of enterprise NAS and even offsite storage that is a part of the pool. You can also set up drives as overflow drives. This is for the regular storage pool. And these get written to only if there's an emergency and we have to rely on this overflow drive. Normally, we don't write any data to this overflow drive. But it's a lot better to have some overflow space allocated ahead of time, as opposed to running around in an emergency with thumb drives or spare drives. Besides storage pools, the next thing that we did is we introduced this concept of camera-based retention policy. The default is no policy at all. This most closely mimics the current behavior of the CompleteView system today, but we made it very easy to mass assign retention for cameras, and it's possible to leave it with no retention policy, to set a minimum, or to set a minimum and maximum. We reconcile the amount of video that's stored per camera on a daily basis, and we've also done a lot of work to help gracefully map the volume-based retention policy and storage that we have today in CompleteView to this new camera-based retention policy. The last part, and in my opinion, the part I'm most excited about, is that we've also done a lot of predictive analytics on storage. And what we now do is retention forecasting and notifications. So we're continuously looking at the consumption of the storage, both what we're consuming on a per recorder basis, but also generally what's happening to the storage pool. And we've introduced a set of new notifications. We will create a warning if we're projected to fail retention. So well ahead of time, you're going to know that you're setting up for some type of failure on a retention policy and can proactively do something about that well in advance. Certainly, we'll let you know if retention has failed. We'll also let you know if we've had to dip into that overflow storage and start writing to it. And lastly, if you have a mixture of cameras, which is a perfectly fine configuration to have, if there are any cameras that don't have any retention policy and they're been down to 1 day of retention on cameras that have no retention policy, we'll send you a notification letting you know, hey, you're getting close to the edge of your storage because cameras that have no retention policy now only have a single day of storage left. So these are some of the new changes that we've made. And while we're not going to do a demonstration today, what I thought would be helpful is to give you a quick insight into how some of this looks in the product. So this is an actual screenshot from the CompleteView version 7.0 product. And you'll notice down at the bottom the retention estimates. So we're looking at a regular storage pool. And one of the things that'll catch your eye very quickly is not only do we have retention on a per camera basis, but we're tracking the 1 day write average, the 7-day write average, and providing a quick visual indicator of any cameras that are writing a little bit abnormally compared to their 7-day average. We also have a very clear set of graphs that indicate both the actual and estimated disk consumption. This, along with a couple of other charts that are part of CompleteView version 7.0, make it very easy for administrators and integrators to not just stay on top of storage, but to very quickly identify and understand what might have gone wrong and where to focus their attention, whether it's a drive that's had an issue, or whether it's a camera that rebooted and is for some reason writing at a much higher rate than expected. All right, next we're going to talk about scalability. This is another key focus area that we put a lot of effort and energy into in CompleteView version 7.0. And our goal with scalability, responsiveness, and performance was to really allow our customers to scale their deployments without having to introduce additional management servers. Now, this is one of the big benefits of Salient's CompleteView platform. As an enterprise-ready platform, there is amazing centralized management right on premise. And so one of the things that we challenged ourselves with is taking a single management server and looking at two different use cases. One was a setup with what we call a very large environment. So 700 recorders, 25,000 active cameras, 4,000 views, 350 users. We also looked at a mid-scale deployment. So 70 recorders, 4,800 cameras, 650 views, and actually a few more users on this one, 850 users. And what we did is we sat down and we cataloged over 500 use cases in working with our customers, with our systems engineers, with our product team. And we categorize these use cases by the role that does them and the frequency. There's some tasks, for example, that operators do every single day in our VMS. And we wanted to make sure that all of these tasks, especially the high frequency tasks that operators do, such as switching between views, pulling up a specific search on a camera, navigating throughout the interface, that no matter what, at these different scales, that the system was highly responsive and that the system could actually scale to these numbers. And so we're very happy to say that CompleteView version 7.0 actually delivers on the scalability and performance, especially when it comes to these very high frequency tasks. Next, I want to share with you some of the major improvements we've made in camera and integrations. One of the things that we did with CompleteView version 7.0 is we really overhauled our camera testing and certification process. This is something we do internally here at Salient in order to validate that a camera is compatible with our VMS. As a part of this new testing process, we've also added over 70 new camera devices, and we've taken the time to actually improve the online device support experience. It's now a web form, and it includes a lot more detail that's very useful to our own system engineering team, but just as important, our customers and integrators, in not just understanding what cameras are supported, but exactly what capabilities, what firmware version, what version of CompleteView was tested against. So look forward to these changes. Some of these are actually live now. Another key trend that we want to talk about in discussing camera support is the rise of these multi-sensor panoramic cameras. We've seen a lot of these be very popular when covering large outdoor spaces, whether that's sports stadiums, college campuses, parking lots for large retailers. And one of the trends we've seen here is the adoption of these cameras because they avoid poor pixel density, they avoid having to put up multiple individual cameras, and they avoid having to deal with dewarping. And the idea is that these give you the best of both worlds. Really wide angle view where the camera stitches together these multi-sensors to create a very nice panoramic image. So you get great pixel density and field of view. Well, one of the things that we've had to do in supporting these cameras is change a little bit of what's been very unique about Salient. See, Salient has very lightweight requirements on clients. You don't need very expensive workstations. Out of the box, it's easy to use web and mobile clients. And this is because we're one of the few VMS vendors that out of the box leverages not just multi-streaming, but also intelligent dynamic transcoding. We call this dynamic resolution scaling. Now, one of the things with these multi-sensor panoramic cameras is they generate incredibly high bitrate streams. And the image they create is often 20, 30 megapixels, sometimes even more. And so our strategy for this is to leverage multi-streaming, certainly, where we're pulling an incredibly high bitrate stream as well as a lower resolution, lower bitrate stream. And we're able to serve all three key use cases: normal live viewing in a multi-tile view, tracking a live incident, and then also doing playback or search for forensic needs after the fact. Now, when we're talking about live viewing, we're able to dynamically transcode that secondary, that lower resolution, lower bitrate stream and serve web, mobile, and desktop clients. We're also able to handle PTZ directly on our recorders. When it comes to handling live incidents, we send this really high bitrate stream direct to clients. So now we're not taking a huge compute load on our recorders, But for the first time, it means that if you want to use a lot of these multi-sensor panoramic cameras, you have to have an appropriately sized client workstation or device in order to be able to handle these types of loads. You'll notice that PTZ is actually now happening down on the client side. And that's the same case with pulling, especially the high bitrate video direct from storage if you're handling any forensic needs. So in summary, we've got a great path to supporting these types of cameras, but one thing to be aware of is, A, we're using ONVIF to make this applicable to as many of the manufacturers as we can. There are a lot of different camera manufacturers using these multi-sensor panoramic cameras. We've introduced a means to selectively process streams, so we're not always dynamically transcoding the video. And for the first time, we're having our clients handle the decoding in digital PTZ. So again, just something to be aware of. If these cameras are important to your use case, then you'll want to pay careful attention to the performance and capabilities of the client workstation that you're using. Something that you've never had to worry about with CompleteView or with Salient, and something that you still don't have to worry about if you're not using these types of cameras. Speaking of other camera and integration work, the other thing that we've done in 7.0 is we've taken the time to really invest in our APIs. We actually have a new version 2.0 REST API that covers both our recording server and also the management server. We've also taken time to really modernize authentication, so we have a new token-based authentication method. Don't worry though, we will still have support for legacy user ID and password authentication so that any existing integrations still work, and there's time to kind of update integrations to leverage this more secure, more modernized authentication. Now, these new set of APIs are going to be officially published later this year, and they'll include documentation and SDK, but something that we're really excited about because it'll make integrating with our product, whether that's in-house, internally, whether that's with third parties and other technology vendors, much, much easier. All right. We've covered some really major aspects of CompleteView version 7.0. And before we get into cloud services, which I think a lot of people are excited about, I want to spend a brief moment talking about what it takes to upgrade to version 7.0. So CompleteView version 7.0, as you can see, with all the work that we've done with storage management, some of the other changes that we've done to camera support and to our REST interfaces, there's a ton of changes. And this is going to take a little bit of planning and coordination to upgrade to if you're an existing customer. The first thing that we're doing is we're going to start requiring the version number of CompleteView on purchase orders. We'll have a little bit more detail on the right way to do this, but this is to make sure that you don't end up in a situation where you order a system from Salient and end up having the wrong version and then end up having to reinstall software. We can handle delivering exactly the version that you need. And so we're going to have a process for making this a little bit more clear on our purchase orders. Now, the great news is if you don't have an existing system and don't need to worry about transitioning from your volume-based recordings to this new storage pool concept, you can more easily and quickly adopt version 7.0. And so new systems, by default, will start getting version 7.0 sometime in early August. Subsequently, we're going to focus a lot on making version 7.0 easier to adopt for existing customers. This includes a set of tools that make that migration process a little bit easier. We're also going to have some documentation, checklists, and other resources to make that upgrade process easier to plan and execute. We plan to have these resources available and ready near the end of August so that by early September, our existing customers can successfully and smoothly start upgrading to version 7.0. If you're excited about taking advantage of version 7.0, one of the things that you can start doing right now is to get your deployment to version 6.1.2. That's going to be the prerequisite for getting yourself to version 7.0. Now, when it comes to the actual migration path, we have two approaches, a direct path and a phased approach. The direct approach is appropriate for smaller deployments that are less sensitive to downtime, that are able to handle the upgrade for all of the components in one window. That might not be feasible for everyone, and if you have a very large multi-site deployment, and if you have very small downtime windows, then we do have a path for a more incremental upgrade. This is something, again, that'll be part of the resources and tools that we're going to provide that'll be available at the end of August so that early September, these phased rollouts can start to begin. But the idea is that instead of having to upgrade all the recorders at once, all the clients at once, it's possible to actually phase out at least the recorders to version 7.0 one at a time, and to handle perhaps a site or location at a time instead of having to do the entire deployment. Again, we'll have a lot more resources and documentation available on how to go through this process. All right, last but not least, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about Salient Cloud Services. This is something that is going to be available to people that are on CompleteView version 7.0. So you have to get on version 7.0 to take advantage of Salient Cloud Services. So I think the first thing to understand is the strategy and approach that we're taking here at Salient. It turns out when people start talking about cloud, they actually might mean a number of different things. Everything from no footprint, meaning cameras that connect directly to cloud, all the way to hybrid models that have most of the VMS deployed on premise, and maybe there's some remote access and maybe a little bit of storage that's available through the cloud. Now, the approach that Salient is taking, given that a lot of Salient customers today have deployments that look more like a traditional deployment where everything is on premise, is that we're introducing a set of cloud services that enable really easy remote access into this on-premise deployment. It allows our customers to retain the flexibility, ownership, and most importantly, control of their deployments, but it makes remote access extremely easy. Over time, we might certainly expand our offering, perhaps to have some type of bridge or appliance-based device. And longer term, we might get to some no footprint type of model. But right now, we feel that this hybrid or cloud-enabled deployment model is the most appropriate for Salient Cloud Services. So coming very soon with version 7.0 is the opportunity for Salient customers to connect their deployments to Salient Cloud Services and unlock a whole lot of new operational efficiency and value. You get to benefit from really easy remote access, not just for the end user customer, but also for the integrator. Easy remote user management, health monitoring, system updates, and maintenance. Over time, as we expand this offering, we'll have the ability to store and share clips through Salient Cloud Services as well. So how's this going to work? Basically, if you have a CompleteView version 7.0 system, where again, you've got centralized management on premise, you've got desktop, web, and mobile clients, recording servers, all effectively operating on a local area network. We're now introducing a set of Salient Cloud Services on the internet, and we've made the sign up really easy. It's a one-step process that happens just at the management server. And the great part is this first step of just registering your deployment is free, and there's a ton of value. By taking the time to just register your deployment for free, we provide a set of asset dashboards for our customers and for integrators. The idea is that you now get a simple web dashboard of all the recorders, all the licenses, and other basic information that represents your deployment. Now, you can go further and decide to actually subscribe to Salient Cloud Services, and in doing so, we will set up a secure VPN network to connect your deployment up to Salient Cloud Services. We'll also then allow you to use existing clients, desktop, web, and mobile clients, to connect into your deployment, either as an end user customer or as an integrator, and have fine-grained control over who can or cannot remotely access the deployment. We'll also have a set of web dashboards, and more than anything, we've made sure that this is a secure solution where our customers don't lose control or security of the solution. The great part about this design is it's applicable not just to new customers, but to existing Salient customers. And for right now, there's very little that's stored up in the cloud. There's no credential information that's stored in Salient Cloud Services. So the authentication happens against the management server that customers have on premise. And there's no video data that we're currently storing up in the cloud. As we introduce these additional layers, we're going to make sure that it's secure, and it's something that our customers can opt into as they evolve in leveraging the cloud to better augment their on-premise deployment. One of the things that's very unique about Salient Cloud Services is the registration flow. In taking stock of how some of our competitors do it and taking stock of the feedback that we've received, we've actually introduced a registration flow that involves anyone and everyone being able to create a Salient Cloud Services account and having a friend request process that allows integrators and end user customers to associate with each other. And by doing so, the integrator can get access to the free asset dashboard that customers get when they register their deployment. And it allows integrators to then work with customers to package and sell remote access as a service so that the remote maintenance, remote monitoring, remote management of the system is something that integrators can participate in doing along with their customers. Some of the unique benefits of Salient Cloud Services is the fact that right now the registration happens just once at the management server. You don't have to worry about anything on a per recorder or per camera basis. You get a free asset dashboard upon registration. And again, as an end user customer, this is a step you'll take. But once you invite your integrator with that friend request, they'll also get access to this free asset dashboard. And it's super helpful, getting the product IDs of every recorder, understanding the licenses being used through this free dashboard. There's no need to use Salient hardware to take advantage of Salient Cloud Services. There's no upcharge or fees for using a VM or using your own hardware. That's a huge advantage over a number of the other alternatives in the marketplace that have upcharges or require very specific hardware. And we have this super simple friend request process that allows integrators and customers to associate with each other. From an operations perspective, it's all the things you would expect. It's easy, secure remote access for both customers and integrators. Often we found that perhaps end user customers can get remote access from IT, but integrators, especially technicians, often struggle to get remote access because corporate IT is unwilling to allow integrators onto the corporate VPN or network. Well, Salient Cloud Services becomes a secure and scalable way for integrators to easily get access into these deployments and help customers better maintain and manage their video surveillance deployments. Additionally, you can use existing clients. So we haven't created a totally new interface to working with CompleteView. You can leverage the same web, mobile, and desktop clients remotely. And lastly, we've made sure that this is as secure as it can be out of the box. So we use a VPN and an API gateway. So we have very controlled remote access to the system. The idea with Salient Cloud Services here is to really create better partnership between Salient integrators and customers. We understand that our integrators are out there trying to deliver value to end user customers, and we see Salient Cloud Services as a key means of doing that. The idea is that you can deepen customer relationships by delivering much more responsive service at much lower cost. The idea is maybe you don't have to deliver, you don't have to roll a truck to solve every single problem, and you gain insights into the operations. For customers, this is a huge win because you get really easy remote access, you get much better service from your integrators, and you get to do all of this without burdening your already overburdened IT team. Now, an important note about Salient Cloud Services. Throughout the course of this year, we're running an early access program. This is a paid program, and there are a limited number of slots. Now, certainly, we encourage everyone to register their deployments, but when it comes to actually signing up for the paid services that enable that remote access, we've got 7 to 9 customers that we can take through this process. We're looking for people who are primarily interested in remote access that are going to do an intermittent amount of video streaming, who are currently facing some friction or frustration in enabling remote access for their integrators. We're looking for people who have distributed deployments, who are security conscious, who are willing to upgrade to or use CompleteView version 7.0, who are comfortable with recurring revenue products, and who can commit to a weekly debrief and a publishable testimonial at the end of this. We'll have a little survey at the very end of this webinar. And so if you're really interested, please let us know that you would like to participate in this early access program, and we'll reach out with more information. All right, that's bringing us near a close on our webinar today. And before we wrap up, one of the things that we've got is a survey. Again, this is a survey that you'll have to take in order to enter that raffle for the $100. And so I believe we're going to send something out on chat. You should have a link. where you can complete this this survey. So go ahead and take the survey using the link. This is also something that we will email out to everyone who's registered. And now we're going to open it up for Q&A. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat. We'll tackle a few of these, and then we can follow up offline as well. So I'm going to take a look at the questions that are coming in. All right, first question I see on here is, let's see, we are in version 4.7. It sounds like a rip and replace option would be easiest compared to stage upgrades. That's something to consider. Rip and replace is certainly a way to go. We do have an upgrade path from version 4.7 to version 6.1.2, so you'd have to take that one hop and kind of prepare yourself. And then from 6.1.2 to 7.0. A lot of this comes down to whether it's important to pull in at least things like users. There is some configuration that I think might be a challenge to pull from 4.7 all the way to 6.1.2. But my recommendation would be to get in touch with Salient, find an SE, and really talk through what the requirements there are, because it might be worth going through staged upgrades depending on the deployment. Certainly rip and replace is an option as well. Is it strongly suggested to create a backup before migration for any system? Great question. Believe it or not, this is something we are handling as a part of the upgrade process. So from 6.1.2, there is a database migration, but we actually take the time and effort to preserve your 6.1.2 database and copy and transform all of the information that we need and migrate it over into what the version 7.0 system needs. Certainly, that doesn't stop you from taking your own backups, but we've done it in a way where we've got the version 6 information properly backed up as well, and we protect a copy of the version 6 database. Can version 4 clients connect to version 7? So, the work that we've done is to ensure that if you're using older clients, that we'll have some path, especially in these phased upgrades, to make it easy to work with a mixed mode system. But I would say that at a minimum, you'd probably have to get off of at least the version 4 clients. So you're looking at using at least version 6.1.2 clients. And we'll have more information on the type of mixed modes available if you need to do a phased deployment and you can't get everything to version 7.0. And so there'll be details on what the version compatibility between clients and recorders is. Certainly the management server will have to be on version 7. Can cloud services be locked down to not enable remote management and maintenance and only allow one-way traffic on-prem to cloud? There are actually a lot of ways to lock down Salient Cloud Services. There's explicit control over who can and cannot do remote access. Also on a per user basis, you can control whether someone has the ability to do any type of remote management or whether they're limited to just maybe pulling video and perhaps only live video versus recorded video. So it's actually a fairly fine-grained set of controls with Salient Cloud Services on exactly the experience that you want people remotely experiencing. What country is Salient Cloud Services hosted in? So we're using public cloud for this at the moment. And so it's hosted in North America. Let's see. Will V7 have to be purchased through a reseller and not direct sales? Correct. Yes, we're not changing anything about how you purchase CompleteView or Salient products. You'll still have to purchase through an authorized reseller or channel partner. Let's see. couple of other questions that have come up. All right, we've got a question on when are we going to be able to follow up and do a demo of some of these key capabilities, including cloud. Great question. I know today we went over all of the key concepts that are in CompleteView version 7.0. We're going to do a follow-on, I think, in the next month or so that goes into actual product demonstrations and showcases how some of these new features get used, how stuff like selling cloud services actually works. Let's see, questions about version 7 part of virtual training. Yes, so we're working with our training and certification staff to make sure that we do have resources to train people on version 7.0. Again, given that it'll be kind of early August when we'll start shipping version 7.0 systems, we'll be prepared with training and certification material kind of in that same time frame as well. All right. In terms of training for integrators, there'll be a follow-up on that. We'll have dedicated session to system administrators and integrators so that they can get kind of a deeper technical dive on how to properly configure, troubleshoot, and kind of manage a V7 system. So look forward to that. All right. I think we've got a few more questions, but maybe the best way to do this is we can follow up with folks who've asked questions kind of offline over email. Apologies if we haven't gotten to your specific question, but kind of in the interest of time, what we're going to do here is wrap up with just a few final pieces. So we're going to send an email out to everyone who's registered. It'll have a link to this webinar. But the other thing that we're going to have is we're going to have a landing page for CompleteView version 7.0. And it'll have not just this webinar that you can catch again on demand, but it'll have a number of other resources. Certainly, we'll populate these over time. So stuff like a checklist that you'll need for upgrading, an understanding of the compatibility between different versions, and other resources so that you can educate yourself, be prepared about the upgrade process, and kind of be familiar with version 7.0 before you jump into it with your deployment. And so look forward to that link. The other thing is, again, you should see it in chat, but please do take the time to fill out the survey. It's just a few questions on whether you're interested in the early access program for scaling cloud services, and about your willingness or readiness to adopt version 7.0. So it's been a pleasure connecting with you all. As I said, we've been super excited about this development effort. It's been over a year in the making, and it is a pretty major turning point for us. And we'll look forward to a number of enhancements and an easier migration path as we progress further into the year. Thanks, everyone.